Now, a wrestler's finishing move is the most important move in a wrestler's arsenal. It should be protected at all costs and rarely kicked out of. However, due to how modern wrestling is presented, it's common practice for a matchup to feature an odd kick out of a popular finishing move. In spite of this, there are certain superstars who have managed to protect their finishing move throughout their career, and nobody has ever kicked out of their trademark move. Which ones are they? Well, join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at 10 WWE wrestling finishes that nobody has ever kicked out of. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Number 10. The Bonsai Drop. The Bonsai Drop was one of the most devastating moves of the 1990s. It featured the nearly 600-pound Yokozuna ascending to the middle turnbuckle, then proceeding to drop all his weight onto his opponent's chest. It was a great finisher that looked credible, and it genuinely looked like it could seriously hurt someone if the move went wrong, or if Yoko was feeling a bit too heavy that day. WWE did the right thing throughout Yokozuna's career by protecting the move in all of Yokozuna's matches. The finishing move was never kicked out of, which is an incredible feat when it's taken into account that Yokozuna has faced a number of WWE's top stars such as The Undertaker, Bret Hart, and even Hulk Hogan. Number 9. The High Cross. When Sheamus debuted in the WWE in 2009, it was clear that he was struggling to find a finishing move that fitted well with his character. Sheamus went between a number of finishers, and the one he used at the beginning was the move known as the High Cross. The High Cross was in essence Sheamus' version of Razor Ramon's Razor's Edge. It looked great, but the WWE believed the move was potentially dangerous. By the time WWE insisted that Sheamus stop doing the move as a finisher, it already had a solid reputation, as nobody kicked out of Sheamus' version of the move. Sheamus would replace the move with the Brogue Kick, and this is a move which Sheamus would go on to win multiple world title wins with, and it's the finishing move he still uses in WWE to this very day. Number 8. Judas Effect. Chris Jericho signing for AEW was a huge deal, and Jericho knew that he needed to reinvent himself to stay current and popular. One of the things Jericho did to achieve this was introduce a brand new finisher known as the Judas Effect. This was a spinning back elbow, and to Jericho's credit, it looked great. Jericho discussed the origin of the new finishing move during a Q&A session as he revealed, "I was doing some MMA training earlier this year at Dave Bautista's gym, so we did the spinning elbow and I said, hold on, let's try that a few times and let me see if this can work. And bingo, I had this new finisher. Plus it was a brand new time for me starting with AEW, so I wanted to do something I'd never really done before. Something that's never been kicked out of, that sort of thing." All of those things, putting together the Judas Effect, obviously a great name. Jericho has used the move since 2019, and to this date not a single AEW superstar has kicked out of the move. Number 7. Black Mass. One of the things that made Aleister Black get over in WWE was the impact and notoriety of his finishing move, the Black Mass. The Black Mass saw Black perform a spinning head kick which either knocked out his opponent or knocked them down enough to secure the victory. The Black Mass was protected throughout his time in NXT, and this protection continued during Black's main roster run, as not a single superstar on either NXT or the main roster ever kicked out of the move. Number 6. Red Arrow. Neville, or Pac as he's now known in AEW, has one of the most impressive finishers in the wrestling industry. During his WWE career, he predominantly used a top rope finishing move called the Red Arrow. The Red Arrow involved Neville executing a corkscrew shooting star press, and it was absolutely flawless in execution. WWE and Neville made the conscious decision to protect the move as much as possible, and it was decided that the move was going to be one of the most legitimate finishers in the entire WWE. During Neville's time in WWE, not a single superstar kicked out of the move, and fans are certainly hopeful that this protection continues in AEW, where he changed the name of the move to the Black Arrow. Oh, and if people are thinking that Seth Rollins kicked out of that finisher, he didn't. It was just a foot on the rope. That doesn't count. Number 5. The Shatter Machine. When Scott Dawson and Dash Wilder joined forces in NXT as the Revival, they knew that they needed a hard-hitting finisher which complemented their take-no-prisoners style of pro wrestling. The move they eventually came up with was the Shatter Machine. The move involved the opponent being lifted into the air with a flapjack. This was usually done by Dawson, and then Wilder would jump up and perform a Codebreaker style move in mid-air. The move looked awesome, and it received a huge reaction when the duo debuted the move. The move was never kicked out of during their time in NXT, and surprisingly, this continued into their main roster run. This resulted in the finisher becoming one of the most protected tag team finishing moves of all time, and it's now well established for being one of the most popular finishers in the established history of tag team wrestling. Number 4. The sixth move of Doom. The sixth move of Doom, aka the Lightning Fist, is a move that was introduced by John Cena in 2018. The move was basically a taunt, followed by a standard back fist punch, but Cena strangely decided to use the move as a finishing move. He used the move throughout his appearance in 2018, and somehow not a single WWE superstar managed to kick out of the move. The move was intended to be a tie-in with Cena working on a new movie project with Jackie Chan, and fans certainly struggled to make the connection. It was appreciated that Cena tried something new with this move, but the move fell rather flat, and Cena could have come up with a move that was a little more exciting. Following 2018, Cena retired the move, reverting back to the attitude adjustment that fans knew and loved so much. Number 3. Widow's Peak. When Victoria debuted her Widow's Peak finisher on Raw in 2002, the move looked so devastating that Jim Ross actually questioned if Victoria had just outright killed her opponent. Her finisher was without a doubt the best looking finisher on the women's roster, and some could argue it was better than the majority of male finishers on the roster. Throughout Victoria's run in WWE, the Widow's Peak was so protected that not a single female on the WWE roster ever kicked out of the move. Number 2. Punt Kick. The punt kick was first used by Randy Orton in 2007 during a feud with the legendary Shawn Michaels. Although the move is rather simple in nature, it's very effective as a kick to the skull is one of the most legitimate finishing moves possible. The move became synonymous with Orton, and at one point the move was outright banned as WWE believed the move was dangerous. The move eventually returned, and Orton has won a number of world titles with the devastating kick. Now, although Orton's other finisher, that being the RKO, is more well known, a number of WWE stars have kicked out of the popular move more than once. This is not the case for the punt kick, as in the 15 years that the move has been around, not a single WWE superstar has ever kicked out of the move. And number 1, End of Days. Baron Corbin made his WWE debut in 2014, and since his debut, Corbin has been using a finishing move known as the End of Days. Amazingly, not a single superstar has ever kicked out of the move. Considering that Corbin has had major matches with the likes of Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and even Kurt Angle, this is some huge achievement. Due to the amount of time that the End of Days has been protected for, there is an argument that can be made that Corbin's finisher is the most legitimate finisher in the entire WWE. During a 2021 interview with BT Sport, Corbin revealed that he would rather retire without ever winning the WWE title if it meant that nobody ever kicked out of the End of Days. Corbin added, "And I think having let's say I have a 12-year career and no one's ever kicked out of the End of Days, it's something that would be talked about longer than championships, I believe. And I'm all about leaving that legacy. Like I said, I want someone to go, oh man, Baron Corbin, he went 12 years, was never a good guy, but his finish nobody ever kicked out of."
End of days! End of days! End of days!
But there you have it, folks, 10 WWE wrestling finishes that nobody has ever kicked out of. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.